Rachel Burson is a puppet builder, puppet wrangler, and the current president of the Los Angeles Guild of Puppetry. She's built puppets for Yankers, Waffles and Mochi, and the Barbarian and the Troll. In part 2 of the Swazzle Lunch Break, Sean and Rachel discuss different puppet building tips and tricks, including resources that those who want to learn how to build puppets might find useful. Sean started the conversation off by asking Rachel, what's it like to see a puppet that you built come alive on screen?
It's really strange. It's like being a stage mom, you know, it's like seeing your kid on screen and you're like, whoa, like I made that and it looks better than you thought it was going to. And you're like, oh, thank goodness. Like no one can see that thing that happened. And like, it's just, you know, like what's like with looking at Waffles, like she went to Peru. I'm never going to go to Peru, but she went to Peru. And I'm like, you know what? Good for her. So I feel like I can live vicariously through like this puppet, and it's very, so it's a weird feeling, but it's very fulfilling to see it finally, you know, reach the end of the line, which is really cool. I don't know about for you, how do you feel when you see them?
It's by the time I finally see it, it's like, oh good, it's done.
Yes, yeah, exactly. You're like, get it out.
Yeah, because a lot of times when you are you're really focused on the getting it done part of it, you know, you're kind of in this almost like tunnel vision, like you're sewing, you're gluing, you're doing, you're delivering, and then suddenly it comes on TV. And you're like, oh, I can relax and I can enjoy. Also, it's fun to see the final step, which is the puppeteers bringing it to life.
Yes.
You know, that's the final step. One thing I'll never get tired of, not that I get ever tired of seeing my puppets on TV, I love it. But one thing I never get tired of is seeing them on billboards.
That's so cool.
I know, like,
I've never, and like it's LA specialty, you know, because we put our shows on billboards. It's not like always lawyers. It's like, you know, it's actual TV shows. Yeah, seeing like the Yankers one, the Waffles and Mochi one, like on a billboard, I was like, oh my God, it's bigger than I am now.
Yeah. I know,
so
that's
cool.
an incredible experience. What's the puppet that you are most proud of?
In personal building, it's got to be like my vampire, because I drew him because, you know, there's Inktober every year, and I moved out to LA at the beginning of October. So while we were driving across the country, I was doing Inktober to entertain myself. And he was one of the drawings that I did on the way out to LA. And so then when I got to LA, he was the first like major puppet that I built, because I was like, well, I made this design. Why don't I try and make it a puppet? So Snaggle is like really precious to me, because he's like my first time of like true creative license. But I mean, for show wise, I guess it would have to be Waffles at this point, because like people, you know, people I haven't talked to in years have reached out to me and they're like, my nieces love your show, my kids love your show, like, wow, this is so cool, did you meet Michelle Obama? And it's like no, I didn't, but like, you know, but like it's been
but your
wild.
puppet did.
My puppet did. We touched, you know. So it's been fascinating, and like the fan art Friday that they do and all that, but like, you know, the ability for that puppet to have reached so many people, and to see kids, you know, being like, oh, they want to start cooking, they want to start trying these things, like what a gift to be able to like throw out there and to like really give kids a chance to want to try something new. Like that's, you know, that's the name of the game. It's so cool.
I have a question about your vampire. Did Liza make the costume?
She did. The ever amazing Liza Daly, who's a beautiful builder. Yeah, she like had this like beautiful brocade fabric, and she was like, can I make his vest out of this? And I was like, yeah. She's like, can I give him puffy sleeves? I was like, yeah. It's like, whatever you want.
Someone wanted to know if you have a little work smarter, not harder puppet building tip.
Make a good neck sleeve. Make a good neck sleeve that works and stretches the right way, because if you don't, the puppeteers are going to have such a trouble and the puppet's never going to fit right. Always have a good neck sleeve with a ring in the bottom.
and that's a great advice. And what I would also say is the more you do it, the more you figure it out. Like, you know, when we did puppets for Yankers, we had to make 60 plus puppets. I didn't say had to, we got to make 60 plus puppets. And that did involve builders, you know, kind of like all around the LA region, you know, in our shop, out of our shop, building the puppets. And then also these, you know, the blank characters as well. And I really feel like putting ourselves through that sort of rigorous puppet building schedule really kind of like finalized the roadmap to do this.
Good.
Okay, first you do this, then you do this, then you do this, then you do this. And it's pretty much the same for any puppet. And once you have that roadmap in place, so I guess it's kind of like do it a lot, and then you can really start to figure out what the next steps are.
Oh, I'm so glad, because that's what I wanted to say, but I didn't know if that was the right answer. That was a helpful answer. I was like, because you do, because like, you know, like with Crankingers right now, I'm building incredibly fast, and we have a PA with us, and she's wonderful. But I like did something where I was just like turning the fabric, being like, oh, do this and do that, and she like watched me do it, and I was like, do you get it? She was like, it looked like magic. What did you do? And I realized that just because I've done it so many times that I was moving too fast, and I like slowed down. I was like, oh, this is how we fold this part, and blah blah. She was like, oh, okay, and I was like, I'm so sorry, but you know, for someone to say, wow, it looked like magic, it's just like, wow. That's cool. That feels nice.
If someone were to say, you know, how do you build a car? I'd be like, I don't know. But I know there are steps. There are steps, but there are also steps for making puppets. The specific types of puppets that we make have steps. And I would imagine that other types of puppets, marionettes or shadow puppets, they also have, you know, their own specific steps. And once you have done this a lot, you can start to say, okay, I'm doing the head, I'm doing a mock-up, I'm doing this part, I'm doing the mouth palette. Oh, before I do this, I need to do this. I think that's one thing that maybe people starting out building puppets, you kind of want to like do it all, but it's like building a house, you know. Okay, now I have the foundation. First I have the blueprint, I got the foundation, and you continue from there.
That's a tip that Greg Valora, who might still be here, gave me, and he said you design from the outside in, but you build from the inside out. Like don't cheat yourself. Like don't make sure that mouth works before you cover it. Make sure that like the fingers work. Like make sure that it works before you get too far down, because then you have to learn the other important lesson that I think that is, if it's not working, you just have to fix it. Like if it's not working, that's okay, but you have to suck it up and you have to swallow your pride and you have to fix it, because you're going to regret it later, and fix it later when it's too far down the line. What's
going to happen is if you're going like, I don't know, eventually when it gets to the set, the puppeteer is going to go, can you? And you're like, now it's all like the fleeces, it's all final and finished. But guess what? Those changes are 100% easier to make in the fabrication process. Do you think it's important that a puppet builder also be a puppeteer?
Yeah, that's actually another tip from Mr. Greg Valora, which is you don't trust a builder who doesn't puppeteer, don't trust a puppeteer who doesn't build. And it's I think that you have to have the understanding of the other, because, you know, like I can put my hand in the air and be like, that doesn't feel good. And like, if it doesn't feel good to me, then it's definitely not going to feel good to a puppeteer, because I have a lot more leniency because I'm building it. Right. So I think that, you know, you don't have to be the next best thing in puppetry to be a builder, but you definitely have to have an understanding, because ultimately it has to work, you know, and that's what you're going for. And if it doesn't work, then you've made a pretty sculpture. Don't you think that puppetry is one of those careers where mentors and being able to come in under someone's wing to learn in that's still like essential, don't you think? It is. Well, I think, and it's because when builders get like, you know, when people have been building for 20 years, like, you know, as somebody who's only been building for like 6, you know, I can like, I see folks like that, and it's like there's so much information that people don't realize that they've accumulated over the years, and you only learn that when it's like an off chance statement, and it's just because you're near them, they're like, oh well, you know, I do it this way, and you're like, oh, but you know, no one would ever think to tell that to somebody, because it's become so natural to you. Right. So which is what's such a shame, because it's so hard to find a good mentor nowadays, just because of, you know, budgets and things like that. But like, I did the Eugene O'Neill puppetry conference, and like through that, like, because I got to build a marionette with like the late Jim Rose, who I adored, and Philip Huber, and like, you know, and Philip Huber, you know, would say like, you know, we stand on the shoulders of giants, and it's like that's exactly what, you know, that's exactly what we do. Like, there's no reason to reinvent the wheel, because someone's already done it. You know, you just have to find that person who did it. Someone mentions here, they said Google has been my mentor, which is interesting, because I mean, maybe you can speak to this, but for me growing up, I didn't have Google. Like, Google was not a thing. It did not exist. There was no Googling anything. So it was even more essential to have those in-person connections. And I would say there are incredible puppet building tutorials online. Adam Krudinger, if he's still watching, he has a whole suite of puppet building tutorials. Mm-hmm.
However, I feel like even if you watched every single one of his tutorials, if you just spent an hour in the shop with him,
yep.
you would learn even more than you would get by watching all of that stuff.
No, that's exactly what it is. Because again, it's all those offhanded comments that you think is natural and you don't even realize is a tip because you've been doing it for so long, you know, and that's why it's so lucky to be in the room. And that's why you do your networking. And like Adrian says, it's why you make your drinking buddies, you know, because that's how you just get that kind of information and then you can log it away for later. And like, because like, you know, I was building, you know, self-taught. I was building with books and I was building with Google, you know, but I definitely knew that I reached, just for the level that I wanted to be at, I reached a plateau where I had used all the information I could get my hands on. You know, I had seen all that kind of stuff. And then I was like, okay, I have all this. Now I'm stuck. How do I get up, you know, to the next level? And that was finding a mentor. That was how I was able to climb to the next step of being a better builder. Was finding you guys.
Well, and you know what? And it all comes back to where this conversation started, which is that people are seeking that out. Join your local Puppeteers Guild.
Mm-hmm.
LA Guild of Puppetry in Los Angeles, my home guild back in the day, San Francisco Bay Area Puppeteers Guild. There's a whole network of guilds all across the nation where you can join and you can eventually have those in-person interactions, attend workshops, go to festivals. Also, Puppeteers of America. I can't say enough about the Puppeteers of America, how influential that organization was to me as a developing puppeteer. The national festivals, I went to a national festival in 1993 in San Francisco, and my brother and I, we learned the same puppet building foam technique from the amazing puppet builders, Lee Armstrong and Camila Portuguese. Images in Motion is their company.
Yeah.
And they're incredible.
Yeah.
And we learned our foam puppet building technique from just volunteering in a workshop that they were giving, and us just kind of absorbing that information.
Mm-hmm.
So I just feel like if there's a takeaway from this, join your local guild, get involved in the guild, join the Puppeteers of America, a Eugene O'Neill, puppetry conference, like all of these, attend a festival, you know, all of these in-person opportunities. You'll meet friends for life. You know, you'll advance your build. You'll be exposed to new types of puppetry. I mean, the very first time I ever even learned who Michael Curry was, who makes all the puppets for Lion King and all that, was at a Puppeteers Festival. And he was talking about like, oh, this is carbon fiber. It's like a new material I'm interested in. Boom.
Crazy.
Yeah.
That's so crazy. Oh, yeah. It's so great. Well, that and like also like none of us are scary or intimidating. Please don't be intimidated by puppet people. We all think we're nerds. We all think we're lame. So like, you know, it's just saying hi, because also any of us want to geek out anytime we can about puppetry, because it's like, it's what we do. It's the coolest thing ever. And we want to talk about it. So like, don't think that you can't approach somebody just because like, oh, well, they do this or they do that. Once you get to the nitty gritty, we're all the same, and we all want to talk about the cool same stuff. Like,
I've yet to meet a puppeteer who's truly not approachable. You know, everyone seems very eager to, oh, you're interested? Huh, okay. You know, in general, the puppeteers, if you go to see a live show at the library, even as a kid, and you say, how does that work? They are going to be interested in what in showing and sharing. That has been my experience. Mm-hmm. But congratulations on all your exciting projects.
Thank
and
you.
If people want to see your work, all they need to do is tune into Netflix, watch Waffles and Mochi, tune into Nickelodeon, watch Barbarian Patrol, tune into Comedy Central, watch Crank Yankers. But how can people follow you or keep involved in what you're doing?
Gosh, the best way to go is to follow my Instagram at Rachel Made Studio, which is RACHEL Made Studio, and also follow LA Puppetry, which is the Los Angeles Guild Puppetry Instagram. So,
and by the way, anyone can join the Puppeteers Guild in LA. You don't even have to live in LA.
Yeah, so there you go.
Thank you again to Rachel Burson, and thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time on the Swazzle Lunch Break.